Well, walking down a historic lane here on Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming foxsportsfm.com. We are broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton Twitch TV channel. Sign up at twitch.tv. It is free. You get to see and hear the show and also chime in. We don't take commercial breaks on Twitch, and so you can chime in during those breaks and listen to our conversations and join in as well. 479-5551 is the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. 479-5551 as we are about to make Miller and Moulton Show history by conducting our first. We've had about 13 different chances to do this, and we've done it a few different ways, but we've never done it this way before, where we actually make the picks.
And one of my favorite shows is when we would bring in the beat writers from all of the teams. It is a very difficult show to pull off and damn near impossible in the morning because no one wants to do it. I mean, we couldn't get guests in this hour. How are we going to get somebody to pick for the LA Chargers at 3 in the morning, if you know what I mean? So that kind of went out the window with doing mornings. But it was asked during the break on the Williamson Brothers Marine Talk and text line how we're going to do this. Are we picking with what we think the teams are doing, or what we would do? And I guess the answer is a little of both. I mean, we're both aware of what the team's needs are, of what's going on. And I guess we'll find out when David picks for Washington, because I have the odd-numbered picks. And let's just get right to this. This is easy. This would have been Tua had he not been hurt. But because he was hurt with the first pick, I am going to select Joe Burrow, quarterback, Louisiana State.
What's up?
Joe Burrow, quarterback, LSU, 6'3", 221 pounds.
Burrow, play action, tosses into the end zone. Terrace Marshall all by his lonesome. Touchdown, Tigers!
The Heisman Trophy winning quarterback had a storybook season in 2019, culminating in a national championship at LSU. Now, as Burrow enters the NFL draft, he's considered by most to be the top prospect because of his touch, vision, and ability to read defenses. The one knock on Burrow is his arm strength, which is considered average. At best, Burrow can move in the pocket and, if pressured, can be a threat with his legs in third down situations. Burrow's leadership capabilities also can't be underestimated, as he showed great poise in various situations on and off the field in his college career.
The Bengals, who have one pick in each round, their other obvious need is offensive line, and we would expect them to go that direction with the first pick of the second round. The Redskins have 7 picks. They have no second rounder, no sixth rounder. They have 2 picks in both the 4th and 7th rounds. They have a lot of needs, particularly, up front. They need an edge rusher, and they need help all along the offensive line. Mark, I would do one of 2 things, quite frankly, if I was in Washington. You know me, I would take Tua. Right. But if I got overruled by the owner, I would be recommending Daniel Snyder. Then let's trade out. Let's trade out, because I'm not willing to put my everything on Chase Young. But just for the sake of, trying to keep it somewhat normal here.
And we're not trading, for the record. Sorry to interrupt, but David and I made the decision we're not going to do trades in this, because for time and for a lot of other reasons, we'd be trading with ourselves. But just to make a point, there will not be trades.
Right. But I'll go Chase Young.
What's up?
Chase Young, defensive end, Ohio State, 6'4", 264 pounds.
Snapped the cone, bobbled it for a minute, knocked away from him by Chase Young, and picked up by Pete Werner. Defensive end Chase Young separated Jack Cohn from the football.
Hey, he's got to be in the Heisman Trophy both.
Young entered Ohio State as one of the top prospects coming out of high school, and is now leading after his junior year as one of the top prospects in this NFL draft. Young led all of college football with 16 and a half sacks this past season and finished in the top 5 in tackles for loss. Young's athleticism is off the charts, but he still has room to add more pass rushing moves to his arsenal. With his size, speed, and ability, scouts say Young is a generational pass rusher that only comes around once every so often in the draft.
I'm not sold on that. His big 3 games, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Clemson, his numbers were pretty ordinary. So we'll see. We will see. But just to kind of keep this on the normal tracks and not derail this mock draft, Mark, I went Chase Young.
And I totally understand where you are with that. And I'd kind of be the same way. Detroit is next. They obviously are a bad team. I would be looking to trade out of this as quickly as I could. I think if they're stuck at 3 and Miami just says, yeah, I'm not giving you much to go. I know everybody is set on Okudah, the corner from Ohio State. Boy, I'm telling you, I wouldn't be completely shocked if they went the kid from Auburn, David. It just seems that Patricia would want to shore up that line, and I know they need the corner spot as well. I think they could go Brown here just as well as they could go Okudah, but the experts all say Okudah, so I will take Jeff Okudah, Ohio State.
What's up?
Jeff Okudah, cornerback, Ohio State, 6'1", 205 pounds.
Intercepted at the 4-yard line. It ends up in the hands of Jeff Okudah again as the ball went high and went off the hands of the intended receiver. But Jeff Okudah comes up with a loose football for the second time tonight.
Okudah was arguably the best cornerback in college football, coming off a season where he didn't commit a single pass interference. The shutdown corner has the size to cover big receivers, but also is quick enough to defend those smaller than him. The first-team All-American is rarely out of position when the ball is in the air, and when it's not, he's shown he can provide help against the run. Okudah intercepted just 3 passes in his only season as a starter in Columbus, but that's more due to opposing quarterbacks choosing not to test him.
David, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Patricia shored up the line. I know he picked up Danny Shelton on one side at the tackle, but you're talking. I know your love of the Auburn D tackle, and it would not surprise me at all if Detroit took him there. But Okudah, when you see everybody talk about his footwork and all of the different things that they say he's a can't miss at corner, and when you lose Slay, it makes sense.
Lions, by the way, have 9 picks, including 2 in the 3rd and 2 in the 5th rounds. Giants on the clock at number 4. They also have 9 picks. That's because they have 1 in each of the first 6 rounds and then 3 in the 7th. Glaring need at right tackle, glaring needs all over the defense, and probably could use a center if they could pick one up in this draft. Something happened late yesterday for the Giants, by the way. Leonard Williams signed his franchise tender. And you know me, I hated this trade when it was made, and I would have found a way to cut Leonard Williams, to be honest with you. But now if you do, it's going to cost you. So Leonard Williams signed his franchise tender yesterday for the Giants. I think that takes Derek Brown out of the equation. I'll stick with, hey, they need an offensive tackle, and I'm just going to play it safe at tackle, to be honest with you. I understand Wirfs or Thomas and others maybe have a bigger ceiling. I'm just taking Jedrick Wills from Alabama, plugging him in at right tackle and moving on.
What's up?
Jedrick Wills, offensive tackle, Alabama, 6'4", 312 pounds. Wills may be the most complete offensive tackle in the draft, showing exceptional ability at both run and pass blocking. He possesses great strength, agility, and technique. He also has a nasty side and loves showing it off when blocking downfield. His only downside is at times he appeared to take some plays off because of his exceptional skill. If he can improve on his consistency, he could become an all-pro tackle and the anchor to an offensive line for years to come.
Well, this sets up perfectly for the Miami Dolphins with 3 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a third, a fourth, 3 fifths, 1 sixth, and 3 sevenths, 15 in total for the Miami Dolphins. They need a quarterback. They need an offensive line. They need defensive line, and they're going to need a running back at some point in the draft as well. And with no quarterbacks being taken here, this is perfect. Miami can get the tackle that they want and just slide. Tua. Let's not make any mistakes. I was waiting for your eyes to look up when I said I'm taking the tackle with the quarterback slipping, but I got nothing out of David, so we will just do what is necessary and what should make everybody in South Florida excited, sell tickets, and get jerseys. Tua.
What's up?
Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback. Alabama. 6 foot, 217 pounds.
Here's Tua. Looks left, throws. Devontae behind the defense. Accelerates down the left sideline. There you go. Touchdown, Alabama.
The hardest name to pronounce may be the most difficult prospect to figure out in this draft. Following hip surgery that cost him half of last season, Tua claims he's 100% recovered from the operation. When healthy, very few can make plays with their arms and legs like Tua. The left-hander can make all the throws and rarely turns the football over. Some compare him to Russell Wilson, but he can improve on his awareness and patience when facing pressure in the pocket. The injury history is difficult to shake, but if Tua can stay healthy at the next level, all pro accolades will be in his future.
Well, I sure as heck hope the Dolphins get to it tonight. I really do.
Me too.
I don't think they can stay at 5 and get them. I'm not believing all the Tua's just garbage noise that's come out the last 5 days. I'm sorry. I'm not believing it. I think it's all a smokescreen. And I think they're going to have to move up. And they got teams at 3 and 4 who I think would gladly move down a spot or two and pick up an extra pick or two and do it. And to me, they just have to outbid the Chargers. And the Chargers don't have a whole lot of picks to play with. They're on the clock right now, and they have 1 pick per round. That's it.
Nothing extra. I mean, great spot that they're in. Obviously, their second and thirds are worth something, David. But, yeah, there's no way. There is no – if the Chargers end up with Tua, it's franchise malpractice by the Miami Dolphins with what their resources are to get what they need to get.
I mean, Carolina at 7 only has 1 pick per round as well. Arizona doesn't need a quarterback at 8. Jacksonville does have 12 picks. And if you think Jacksonville's laying in the weeds for a quarterback and they're saying Minshew, but actually they may want to fake and go in a different direction, they've got 12 picks. So they can do something to move up 4 or 5 spots if need be. But the Chargers are on the clock. And, Mark, they've got needs at quarterback, but I won't take Justin Herbert.
I knew you wouldn't.
They've got a glaring need at corner, but Acuna's off the board. So then they've got needs on the offensive line. So to me, take the offensive lineman that you feel safest about moving forward. And if I'm the Chargers, I'll take Wirfs from Iowa.
I knew you were going to take Wirfs because he was the one guy I couldn't find. There he is.
What's up?
Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle, Iowa. 6'5", 320 pounds. Wirfs, who could also play guard, finished his 3rd season with the Hawkeyes as the Big Ten's Offensive Lineman of the Year. He then dominated the NFL Combine, posting the top performance in his position group's 40-yard dash and setting records in the vertical jump and broad jump. The Iowa native was a known quantity before he ever arrived to play for the Hawkeyes. He was named the top prep athlete in the state after taking home a state wrestling championship, in addition to his 2nd straight shot put crown and his 2nd straight discus title. Of course, Wirfs was a high school All-American in football, and he became the first true freshman lineman to start for the longtime coach, Kirk Ferentz.
Kirk Ferentz?
Or Kirk Ferentz.
Really? You're doing a national thing and you get Kirk Ferentz? I mean, it's not me or Stu Gotts doing this, for crying out loud. What the hell? Carolina is next. As David just mentioned, Carolina, they have 2 fifth-round picks. They have 8 picks in total. They have an early 5th, but they don't really want to be in this spot. They would rather trade out. However, if the draft came out like this, it would be interesting because they need defense. I mean, they need defense, and then they need some more defense, and then they need defense. Now, I would love to trade out if I'm Carolina. I think that there are partners with maybe Vegas because they may want to get ahead of the Jets. David has been talking about that for a receiver for a while. Is Jacksonville interested in Herbert? Would they want to move up a little bit? I don't know. But if I'm Carolina, again, there's a lot of teams that want to trade down. They've got to find a partner to do it. And David, you and I have talked about this a lot. It's not just a partner. It's sometimes the team on top not being so damn stubborn. And that's what I think the case will be with Detroit tonight, is how stubborn they're going to be on whether they not move down, because I think Miami, that part of them, can say, we can stay put and still get the guy we want. Carolina, in this situation, to me, David, this is an opportunity not only to get a really good defensive player, to fill in a need that they have with Kuechly gone, a guy that can play a ton of positions. I think they go Isaiah Simmons, Clemson here.
Isaiah Simmons, linebacker, Clemson, 6'3", 238 pounds.
Pass takes a shotgun snap, looks right, throws it high, and it's picked off by Simmons, and he'll return it left side of the end zone. Touchdown, Isaiah Simmons, the pick six.
Simmons made the most of his 3 years on the field for the Tigers, which included a transition from safety to linebacker. As a sophomore, he led the team in tackles as they went on to win a national championship. The next season, Simmons won the Butkus Award given to the country's top linebacker, amassing 102 tackles in 2019. While Simmons put on a show during his time at Clemson, it continued at the NFL Combine. Simmons ran a blistering 4.3940 and also showed off a vertical that measured 39 inches.
And you're right, Mark. Carolina needs all levels of defense. And so to me, this comes down to Simmons or Derek Brown.
Totally. And I just think Simmons' versatility here, given the fact that Kuechly retired, I just thought this was he's a Clemson kid, no Cam Newton. I thought this was a perfect guy for this team right there. I can't argue with Brown. I just think the versatility of Simmons is where they'll go.
Well, the reason I went all blank is I was already thinking ahead because I'm on the clock at 10 with Cleveland. All right. And Cleveland has a need at tackle, but they also have a need at linebacker. And so I was hoping that Simmons would fall to the Browns at 10. But right now I'm on the clock with Arizona. They have 6 picks in this draft. They have needs at both lines of scrimmage, quite frankly, offense and defense. And so that's why, it's an offensive tackle or it's Derek Brown. I think I'm going to surprise a few people. Everybody's got Arizona lumped in to take an offensive tackle. Mark, they've got a quarterback who can avoid bad offensive linemen. Now, don't get me wrong. And with no second-round pick, I think Arizona's in a prime position to trade down. I mean, if I was Arizona, I'd be tempted to trade down. But I'm going to, I think, break Jacksonville's heart here. I'm taking Derek Brown.
Well,
I'm sorry. I love him. I absolutely love him. And I'm taking him. I think he's better than the third best offensive tackle. I mean, I think he's better than all the offensive tackles. I think he's the highest ranked player on my board, and I've got a glaring need on both sides of the ball. So, yeah, I know everybody's going to say you should have taken the offensive tackle. No, I'm going to take the best interior defensive lineman in this draft.
David, I can't argue with you because my biggest note on Arizona is line must go tackle unless a D player falls to them. And Derek Brown is the D player to me that if he falls to them, that you can't skip with the talent that he has. You jerk.
Derek Brown, defensive tackle, Auburn, 6'5", 326 pounds.
Trask, and he's hit. Ball is out. The big fella's got it again. Derek Brown took it right off his hand.
I just said they were tired. How could you do that when you're tired?
Because he's going to be a millionaire next year.
Exactly.
For as good of a player as Brown is on the field, he may be a better person off of it. Brown earned multiple leadership awards during his time at Auburn, to go along with multiple on-field SEC and national honors. For being 6'5" and over 320 pounds, Brown displays great athleticism, and combined with his quickness, that makes him a nightmare for any offensive lineman. The Outland Trophy finalist can make plays himself, and there is no question about Brown's motor. Brown is now considered the cream of the crop when it comes to interior defensive linemen in this draft class.
That puts Jacksonville on the clock. We mentioned already 12 picks for the Jags, 2 in the first, 3 in the fourth, 2 in the fifth, 2 in the sixth. And they need a defensive tackle because they're going to lose one. And I was licking my chops hoping Arizona would take a tackle and that I could just slip Derek Brown in. And the big problem here for Jacksonville is if you don't get Derek Brown, there is a big, big gap in interior guys after that. They're just, you're talking about, Brown's the 5th rated player on the list I have in front of me. The next closest defensive player is Kinlaw from South Carolina. I don't think they're going to go Kinlaw. I think Jacksonville now is put in a spot where they have to go offensive tackle even though they don't want to. And not necessarily don't want to because they have a need for tackle. They have a need for linebacker. They have a need for corner. They have a need for defensive tackle.
And they have need for skill players on offense, too. And that's why just throwing this out there, if this draft were to unfold tonight, Mark, would Jacksonville be tempted to start the run on wide receiver?
I don't know. I mean, it could be because I think they have their heart set on Brown. It's kind of where I thought Jacksonville would want to go. I still think at this point, I would probably go tackle, David, and because I don't think if you could take Simmons there, I would take Simmons. If you could take Brown there, I would take Brown. I don't know if I want to take a corner this early and take Henderson with Acuna gone. So I'm going to lean to who I think the best player is on the board, and I'm going to go with the offensive lineman from. I'm going to take Thomas from Georgia.
Andrew
Thomas, Georgia. 4-year starter or 3-year starter at Georgia.
What's up?
Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, Georgia, 6'5", 315 pounds. A starter since his true freshman year at Georgia, some have Thomas as the highest-ranked offensive tackle in a deep draft of tackles because he should step into a starting role immediately. Other tackles might have higher upsides, but are not going to be ready to start day one. Thomas is technically savvy and has great size with good hands. He excels as a run blocker, and while he was an exceptional pass blocker at the college level, he'll need to improve his footwork when pass blocking at the NFL level.
So who's the player that is falling in our mock draft? Oregon quarterback Justin Herbert. And we wondered this in the last couple of weeks, if Herbert and or Tua, like I saw a mock draft this morning in which the Dolphins got Tua at 18.
Yeah, I saw one of those yesterday too. I kind of laughed a little bit, but
whoever the third quarterback is, Mark, if the Chargers and or Dolphins don't go quarterback and they get out of the top 6, this becomes a bit of a Brady Quinn, Aaron Rodgers scenario. Go down your first round and look at the teams and tell me which one of those teams is going to take a quarterback in the first round. You probably go all the way down to Minnesota, New England, New Orleans in the 20s in terms of teams, and Minnesota probably wouldn't because they just re-signed Cousins for 3 more seasons. So I'm telling you, if whoever the third quarterback turns out to be, if they get out of the top 6, ask yourself, which team will then take them? They could fall for a couple of hours. Miller and Moulton. The Browns are on the clock. I will make that pick when we come back. Our first ever Miller and Moulton mock draft. Thanks so much for listening. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Welcome back, Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming foxsportsfm.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton Twitch TV channel, and we will be tonight beginning at 7:30 doing our coverage of the draft exclusively on the Miller and Moulton Twitch TV channel. Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text line is how you can chime in and grade our picks, 479-5551, 479-5551. It's the first time, and Mark and I have done many a mock draft before, but I back in the day did it with you, the fan, but assigning teams for fans, and you would call in and do the drafting. When Miller and Moulton got together, Mark said he didn't make many demands, and neither did I. But the one thing he said was, we're never going to do that.
Yep. That was my only demand.
Right.
The fan mock draft show has to go. Because I think it was the first time I listened to it for about 3 minutes before I turned it off when Warren Sapp got traded for to move 4 spots in the draft or something.
Well, I know the draft in which you're talking because shortly after that, a guy representing the Giants traded Strahan. So, yes, 2 Hall of Famers got traded within the first hour of the fan mock draft.
I was done with that show at that point. That was it for me. Can't listen to Moulton anymore today. Going to have to put on a rock station. Let's put Arrow on.
Then we used to do, when we were in the afternoons, we used to do the media mock draft in which we would track down beat writers for all the teams, and they were good sports, and they would agree to do the draft. And so there you have it. Now, this hour, we figured just the 2 of us, no trades in our mock draft. Mark drafting the teams that are odd numbered, and I'm drafting the teams that are selecting in the even numbers. The Browns at 10 are on the clock. Cleveland, for the record, has 7 picks, 2 in the 3rd round, none in the 5th. They have needs at tackle, linebacker, safety, and edge rusher. Mark, I really think with all the money that Cleveland has left, they should spend it. I mean, they can make a deal for Trent Williams. That would solve a tackle need. All right, they can get an edge rusher in Jadeveon Clowney and let go of Olivier Vernon and save $15 million off the cap. I mean, you could pay Clowney $18, $19 million. It's essentially only adding $3-4 million to your cap.
And there is not an edge guy worth a damn left in this draft. It was Chase Young, who some aren't even as high on as others, and after that, the fall off is incredible. I'm totally with you on Clowney, and I'm with you on Williams for that matter.
And so if you look at their needs, since Simmons has been taken in our mock draft by Carolina at 7, I can't take a linebacker at 10. 10 is too high for a safety. I don't need a wide receiver, yet all of them are on the board. Does this become a value situation for Cleveland in which they look around and go, do we just take Judy or Ruggs or Jefferson or Lamb? I mean, we've got our choice.
And this is where Ruggs would be interesting to me, David, because they have 2 good receivers in Landry and Beckham, but now you got somebody that could go over the top and completely change the game.
And I think the Browns, if I were them in this case, I would find a way to acquire Trent Williams as opposed to taking the 4th offensive tackle that is on the board. But for the sake of no trades allowed, you're not going to allow me to sign a couple of free agents before I make this pick. If I have to make this pick, I would in theory trade out. But instead, I will take the 4th offensive tackle on the board. Okay, Mekhi Becton, 6'7", 369, Louisville.
What's up?
Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle, Louisville, 6'7", 364 pounds. After playing right tackle in his first season with the Cardinals, Becton played mostly on the left side over the past 2 years. He displays good feet in addition to a mammoth frame and a 7-foot wingspan. He can display a mean streak, but also wild hands. At the Combine this year, Becton clocked an impressive 40-yard dash time for someone this large. But there's one obvious question. Will his weight and lack of quickness eventually become a big concern?
He is the one with a lot of upside and a lot of people wondering about quite a bit. That gets us to the New York Jets on the clock, and I think this would bum the Jets out a little bit if it worked out this way. I know a lot of people are thinking the Jets are going to go receiver and that they probably should. I want to make sure that I'm able to take care of my quarterback if I'm the New York Jets. And with the 4 tackles being gone, it kind of sets up what I have to do. Now, they did get some help in free agency. They went and picked up a couple of guys to help their line out. The Jets have 2 third-rounders, 2 sixth-rounders, 8 picks in total. They need a tackle. They need a linebacker. They need a corner. They need receivers as well. And I don't know how at this point, with the way this draft has come, how you don't take a receiver. The question is which one. And, I know Judy's the best one. God, Ruggs makes me wonder. I'm going to be safe, and I'm going to take Jerry Jeudy from Alabama, David. But Ruggs is the guy who intrigues me the most because of his speed.
What's up?
Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, Alabama, 6'1", 193 pounds.
Tua stands back, looks, surveys, has tons of time, throws deep end zone, touchdown Alabama! Jerry Jeudy, 23 yards.
Jeudy is considered by most to be the top wide receiver in a deep wide receiver draft. He's also a skilled route runner, equally effective in stretching the field and making plays in the red zone. If there is a concern, it's his size at 6'1" and just 193 pounds. He had only 24 contested opportunities in his entire college career and will likely have more than that in his first NFL season. It will remain to be seen if he can go up and compete for catches with NFL-level defensive backs.
I'm with you, Mark. I think in an ideal world, the Jets actually would prefer an offensive tackle, that the fourth tackle would fall to them at 11. But in our mock draft, since they didn't, the run at wide receiver begins with the Jets at 11. Mark, the late Al Davis is making this pick.
Just one quick thing on the Jets. Do you know the last time they took a tackle in the first round? 2006, DeBrickashaw Ferguson.
Which worked out pretty well for
them. They have gone defense in the first round almost exclusively in the last 15 to 20. In the last 20 years, they have gone defense except for in 2001, Santana Moss, Ferguson and Mangold in 06, Dustin Keller, a tight end in 08, Sanchez and Darnold. I mean, they go defense first. And boy, oh boy, I hope for the Jets' sake they get the tackle. But sorry, I just wanted to go on because I think that they're a mess right now.
Yeah, they're the worst roster, we believe, in the AFC East for sure. We think one of the worst rosters right now in the NFL. Something to throw out there. It's Joe Douglas's first draft running the Jets. Joe Douglas got his training in Baltimore and then in Philadelphia, two organizations that love to move down in the draft more than they move up. I would be surprised if the draft unfolded, Mark, the way ours has, if he didn't move out.
I couldn't do it fast enough. There's just so many glaring holes that why do I need to take a receiver when I need 16 players?
Meanwhile, the late Al Davis has already made the pick.
From heaven.
No. He swooped in.
From heaven, Al Davis has come down to make this pick virtually. Al, go ahead.
He took control of Mark Davis's body. All right, Mark looked at Mike Mayock and John Gruden and said, my dad is talking to me right now, and my dad loves speed, and nobody loved it more than my dad, and we are taking Ruggs.
What's up?
Henry Ruggs III, wide receiver, Alabama, 5'11", 188 pounds.
Matt looks, waits for the snap on a 3rd and goal from the 3. He'll get it. He'll throw towards the back of the end zone. Touchdown! Henry Ruggs III!
Amazingly, in his 3 seasons with the Tide, Ruggs scored 25 touchdowns on only 100 career touches on offense. He also returned kicks. Compare that to his senior year of high school when he had 20 touchdowns on 102 touches. He's an enticing selection for teams that can envision him turning short passes into long gains. He can sell a double move, but he's not big at all, so he'll need to learn to get away from physical defensive backs in the pros. Ruggs' speed is undeniable, and he wowed the combine by running the 40-yard dash in 4.27 seconds. He also recorded a vertical jump of 42 inches.
That puts the Niners on the clock. San Francisco, 2 first-round picks, and then nothing until the 5th round. They have 2 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, and 2 in the 7th. And while it looks the 7 picks look normal, they're going to move out of this spot. If not this one, they're going to move out of 31. And they may move out of both of them to acquire a lot of day 2 picks. The needs on this team, I think, is on the back end and a little bit on the offensive line. They need safety. They need corner. They need offensive line help. I think with the way this draft has gone, I don't think that they're going to be taking one of the tackles here at 13 and taking the 5th guy. I think they probably go for what they would determine as the second best corner, and I'm going to take C.J. Henderson from Florida if I am in this spot for the Niners. I think that they go offensive lineman, and this is actually the first guy, David, that we don't have a profile on.
The Gators corner?
The Gators corner does not have a profile, so I can't make nice sounds and clips and what have you, but I am still going to take, even though there's no profile, which leads me to believe it's a bad pick, I'm going to take C.J. Henderson, the corner from Florida.
Well, it breaks Atlanta's heart. They were hoping that Henderson would fall to them at 16, and there are a lot of people that now believe he won't make it to 16, and that the Niners, who are looking for a replacement in the not-too-distant future for Richard Sherman, also, there's a couple of ways they could have gone here. I probably would have gone wide receiver if I'm the Niners here, but they have glaring needs at wide receiver, defensive tackle, and corner. You fill the need at corner with C.J. Henderson.
And David, I think it's logical that they trade there. They probably trade with Atlanta if they can get something, because then they could still get a receiver a couple of spots down. They're saying that they want to trade. They could get 47 from Atlanta, middle of the second round, move back 3 spots. If Atlanta would do that, I think San Francisco would do it in a nanosecond.
Atlanta's got a pick in the second, a pick in the third, and 2 in the fourth. And as you pointed out, San Francisco has none in the second, none in the third, none in the fourth. So, yes, that looks like a marriage that could be made. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the clock when we come back. 13 picks down in the Miller and Moulton mock draft. The draft is in a shade over 12 hours. Fox Sports Radio will have live coverage. The Miller and Moulton coverage of the draft will be exclusively tonight on the Miller and Moulton Twitch TV channel. Miller and Moulton, thanks for listening. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We're doing our mock draft. Mark drafting the teams that are drafting in the odd number positions. I'm drafting the picks for the teams that are drafting in the even number positions. Before we get to that, our poll question, that Mark Miller, the David Moulton on Twitter, or millerandmoulton.com. The Dolphins have 3 first-round picks. When you wake up tomorrow, what will their grade be for their picks? A, they got it right. B, looks good. C, that quarterback. F, not again. And right now, B looks good with a slight lead over F, not again.
And they got it right is in dead last.
Right.
Boy, oh boy, Dolphin.
Right.
You are just you are really, really struggling. And I understand it, but it all can be filled. It all can end. If the Miami Dolphins select Tua, I think the weight of the world from now until whenever that first NFL game is, David, falls off the Dolphins' shoulders. It doesn't mean it's going to work, but I think there'll be relief for the first time in a long, long time.
Yeah, it's who the majority of Dolphin fans want them to take with their 5th overall pick, whether they have to move up to get them or not. The Tampa Bay Bucks are on the clock. They have 1 pick per round. Their needs, most glaring one, offensive tackle. Then you could argue it's running back. Then it would be a defensive lineman, because they got a couple of guys that they renewed, but they may be 1-year players. And then, believe it or not, Mark, they've got 2 elite receivers, but they probably could use a 3rd receiver. And are they going to draft a quarterback at some point in this draft? Is maybe the heir apparent. But, Mark, Justin Herbert is on our board.
Yes, yeah, he still is. Are you taking him at 14 there? Because
No,
you just got Brady and Gronk, so I can't see the point in bringing in a quarterback right now.
I understand, but remember, the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers when they had Brett Favre.
I got you,
but still had many a good year left we're wondering if Herbert gets out of the top 6. What team is going to look up and go, can we really pass this up? Now, I don't think Tampa's that team.
Because Jason Light's not going to do it. The ownership's not going to overstep it. You know what I mean? There's got to be a reason to come, that someone's got to step down and say, you got to take this guy now. And I don't think anybody in the Bucs organization would do that.
Now, does Vegas trade up? Which team may trade up if Herbert starts falling like this? Just wanted to point that out. To me, if you're the Bucks, this comes down to like best player on the board, or are you going to take the fifth tackle, which most people feel is Austin Jackson from USC. I'm not going to make that selection if I'm Tampa Bay. I'm going to take I'm torn here because I can get an elite receiver. But
CeeDee Lamb still on the board. Yes, sir.
Also, the guy I really like, Justin Jefferson.
Jefferson out of LSU.
From LSU. And I'm torn to take receiver here, but Mark, I'm going to play it safe and go best defensive player on the board here. I'm going to take Kinlaw, the D lineman, South Carolina.
What's up?
Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle. South Carolina, 6'5", 324 pounds.
Out of below in trouble, down he goes. Javon Kinlaw. I said they were good in the middle to try to pressure the middle, and he just got home.
Kinlaw possesses great size and quickness and immense strength and power at the point of attack. He's great against the run, but is far from just a big body that plugs up the middle of the line. He can shed blockers and has the potential to command double teams to help free up teammates. He also has a decent array of moves to use in helping to pressure the quarterback when necessary. If he can improve his consistency and not take plays off, he could be a dominant defensive lineman.
Well, this one then becomes an easy one for me because the Denver Broncos are on the clock. Denver has a bunch of picks as well. A first, a second, 3 thirds, a fourth, 2 fifths, a sixth, and a pair of 7th rounders. They need receivers. They could use a tackle. They could use a corner, and they could use defensive line help. But the glaring need is wide receiver. And in a lot of people's opinions, the best receiver in the class is still on the board. While there are a lot of people who think Judy's better than CeeDee Lamb is ranked very high on a lot of boards. This, to me, is a no-brainer. They take the wide receiver from Oklahoma.
What's up?
CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver, Oklahoma, 6'2", 198 pounds.
Play action, Hurts back to pass. Has time now, he's lobbing late for CD, caught at the 10, breaks away to the 5, he's still on his feet, and he pogos. Did he get in? Touchdown! How did he do that?
Lamb possesses big playability, especially after the catch. He has exceptional elusiveness in the open field and can turn a short pass or quick screen into a big play. He is also surprisingly tough in being hard to bring down and in delivering blocks for teammates. Lamb also has great pure speed to stretch the field. Despite his skills, many believe he can still get even better. He may not be the best receiver in the draft now, but he could be the best from this class when his career is over.
Denver clearly wants a receiver. Many people feel Elway may even trade up, especially if the run at receiver starts a pick or two earlier than it did in our draft, because the receiver run began in our draft at 11. Atlanta's on the clock. They only have 6 picks, none in the 5th and 6th round, 2 in the 4th. They have glaring needs at corner, defensive line. They could use a slot receiver, and they could use backup health at running back and center. But obviously they'll address some of those needs later on, including I think they can go slot receiver later on. To me, this comes down to, are they going to go corner or are they going to go defensive line? To me, this is either Chason from LSU or this is A.J. Terrell, cornerback from Clemson. I think that Atlanta has a glaring need at corner. I'm going to go Terrell.
A.J. Terrell, and I don't know if we have one on him as well. I didn't think so. Yeah, A.J. Terrell, we do not have a
the consensus third best corner in the draft. And so I think they wanted Henderson, the Gator. He doesn't fall to Atlanta at 16. And there's talk, actually, Atlanta may move up to get him.
Absolutely. No, I think there's no doubt in my mind when I picked at 13 for San Francisco that would be, if that draft worked out that way, Atlanta will pick there. I would bet damn near everything I have on it if the draft folded out that way. They want C.J. Henderson. It's interesting you say Terrell because I've got a consensus ranking. I've got him down a little bit, but they're all really close. When you look at Fulton, the kid from LSU, Gladney, the kid from TCU, and Diggs from Alabama, along with Terrell, all ranked really close to one another. That gets us to the Dallas Cowboys. And I think, should we hold off Cowboys for the top of the hour, or do you want me to try to jam it in here, David?
Well, you could jam it in, and then we'd have the Dolphins to start the next hour.
Well, let's do that then. Holy blank. Let's go with the Cowboys. They need a safety. They need a receiver. They need corner help. I think they're going to go corner here. They do need the receiver, but with CeeDee Lamb and the good ones gone, they can get more in the draft. The Cowboys do have picks in every round in this draft. I am going to go Christian Fulton from LSU, the corner for Dallas. Christian Fulton, the LSU corner, will be the pick that I take for the Dallas Cowboys.
Many a mock draft has Chason locked into the Cowboys for a long time, in fact. For leading up to this week, you had Henderson with the Falcons and Chason with the Cowboys locked in. It will be curious to see whether or not that was a smokescreen all along, because Chason, most people think, will be available when the Cowboys draft at 17, and he was available in our mock draft as well.
Yeah, the problem is I don't like him. I don't think he's a good player. I mean, not that he's not a good player. I just don't think he's a first-round edge rusher. I think that they need help in a couple of spots. I'll take the D-back help. I think in the perfect Cowboy world, they might have wanted to move up and go get a Ruggs, or they might wanted to get a receiver, and he wasn't there. The Dolphins are on the clock when we get the final hour of the show on the Miller and Moulton mock draft.
We are 17 picks into our mock draft. The Dolphins at 18 are on the clock. If you're just joining us very quickly, Burrow, Chase Young, Acuna, Wills go in the top 4. Mark took Tua at 5 for the Dolphins. We don't have any trades in our mock drafts. It would take too long, get a little too complicated. So Tua on the board at 5. Mark took them. Mark taking all the teams that are drafting in the odd number slots. I'm doing all the picks in the even number slots. I passed on Justin Herbert for the Chargers, and Justin Herbert is still on our board with the Dolphins drafting at 18. Wirfs went to the Chargers. Simmons went to Carolina. Derek Brown, I went him instead of offensive tackle at Arizona.
Broke my heart in Jacksonville.
Right, the 2 tackles go 9 and 10. The run on wide receivers in our draft started at 11. Judy goes to the Jets. Ruggs to the Raiders. The Niners take C.J. Henderson, the corner. Tampa Bay, with basically all the players they wanted off the board. I didn't feel comfortable taking the 5th offensive tackle at 14, so I took Javon Kinlaw, the defensive tackle. Mark went CeeDee Lamb for Denver. I went A.J. Terrell corner for Atlanta. Mark goes Christian Fulton corner for Dallas, which puts the Dolphins on the clock. They went quarterback at 5. They have the worst tackles in the NFL. I feel comfortable for the Dolphins taking the 5th tackle in the draft, Austin Jackson, USC.
And that puts us to Vegas, who we had Vegas taking Ruggs in the first round. They still need help at linebacker and corner. I'm not in love with any of the linebackers that are available. Murray, the guy from Oklahoma, is someone who would be here for Vegas if they wanted him. I'm instead going to go to the defensive backfield again. I think I like where Jeff Gladney is, the TCU corner here. So I'm going to go Gladney from TCU for the Raiders at 19.
And yeah, the Raiders, a wide receiver corner were their first, glaring needs. And so we took them at 12 and 19, which puts Jacksonville on the clock at 20. And I think Jacksonville would jump up and down if this draft played out this way, because, Mark, we had their needs on the line of scrimmage, and we addressed that at 9 with Andrew Thomas. And while, yes, they have needs at corner, Mark, to me, they have more glaring needs, weapons. Minshew needs people around him. And Justin Jefferson is still on the board, the wide receiver from LSU. I'm taking Jefferson for Jacksonville. So the Jags first round in our mock draft, Andrew Thomas, tackle Georgia, Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, LSU.
And you're breaking Philadelphia's heart right there.
Yes, I am.
The Eagles are next, and I thought for sure I would be able to get Jefferson because I was curious with that spot, David. You know, the one thing you didn't even bring up is Justin Herbert. If Justin Herbert falls to 20, Jacksonville has a really interesting decision. They're letting you know at that moment they have said, Minshew is our guy going forward. And that's a fact. Because if it were to fall that way, Jacksonville would at least have to consider taking the quarterback, wouldn't they?
Well, he was still on the board for them at 9.
I got you.
And you find out right then and there how much they love or don't love him, because you've got to think if you're Jacksonville, well, he ain't going to be available at 20. So if we want this guy, we have to take him now. And in our draft, we didn't take him. And I don't think either one of us would take him at 20, would we? I mean, you just didn't, and I wouldn't.
No, I'm not arguing. I just thought Philadelphia Eagles were going to be able to get Jefferson because that's who I wanted in that spot. And you just kind of you broke my heart a little bit taking the slot receiver from LSU. I'm going to go with then who I think's the next best player on there. I'm going to go with Mims from Baylor, Denzel Mims for Philadelphia.
All right, and you know, there's talk as to, or, you know, are they that? You know, will Philly just lock in on a wide receiver? I mean, one of the thoughts coming into this draft is that the Eagles are going wide receiver in the first round, but I have seen them take Murray.
They need linebacker help. They need tackle help. They could take the kid from Georgia there. They could take the kid from Houston there. There are a bunch of play. You know, to me, when you're at this point in the 20s, this is why I think mock drafts are hilarious. We don't know what's going to happen at this point in the draft. We don't know how it's going to shake out. But to me, they could have taken either of those tackles. They could have taken the receiver. And you're right. They could have taken Murray from Oklahoma.
The Vikings here have many needs, a lot of them on defense. You know, they've lost 3 starters in the secondary, or they lost 3 corners anyway in this offseason. So cornerback's a glaring need, but also defensive line is a glaring need as well. And to me, I think I have Chason rated higher than I do any of the available corners. And if you're Minnesota, remember, this is the first of 2 within 4 slots, because you're drafting at 22 and 25. And I don't know that Chason makes it to 25. I think my corner might make it to 25. So I'm going to take Chason here at 22 for the Vikings, who have 12 picks in this draft, 2 in the first round because of the Diggs trade to Buffalo.
What's up?
Trayvon Chason, edge linebacker, LSU, 6'3", 254 pounds.
Look out, Rozier blasted back inside the 20. Trayvon Chason with the sack for LSU.
Chason tore an ACL in the 2018 season opener, but came back to lead the 2019 national champions with 13.5 tackles for loss. Despite his height and length, he's impressed some scouts with his fluid and flexible movement and his ability to cover, in addition to his intelligence. Chason is thought of as a pass rusher much more than as a run defender at this point in his football career.
That puts the New England Patriots on the clock, David.
Yes, it does.
And it also puts the New England Patriots on the clock with Justin Herbert still available.
And Jordan Love, and no second-round pick. We keep saying this, that we think the Patriots are a candidate to trade out of the first round, because while they have 12 picks, they have no second-rounder. They have 3 in the third, though, but from 23 to 70-ish, they don't have a pick.
With the first pick in the 2020 draft.
Wait, no. They're drafting 23rd. What are you talking about?
With the first pick for New England in the draft. We just think we can pick first all the time.
What's up?
Justin Herbert.
Oh, look at you.
There it is, David.
Oregon. 6'6",
just to make this fun.
36 pounds.
Herbert, play action to throw, looking downfield, going toward the end zone. Touchdown!
Johnny Johnson III.
The Rose Bowl winner is known for his strong arm and athleticism, rushing for 3 touchdowns in a victory last New Year's Day. Herbert played 4 seasons for his hometown Ducks, with his senior year being his finest. 32 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. At one point in his college career, he threw at least 1 touchdown pass in 35 straight games. He is also the first player to repeat as an academic All-American since Tim Tebow a decade earlier. Herbert was a biology major, but his chemistry was evident as Oregon won 12 of their last 13 games.
We really think he's going to be a good quarterback for us and will help us. We like him. He's a good player.
Thought he was too good to pass up.
Couldn't pass up on him. Nice kid.
Can't believe he was on the board. Well, we had him going in the top 10. So it's just good value there. We're on to Cincinnati. Mark, if this draft were to play out this way, the Saints have 2 glaring needs, and then they have positions where they really could acquire depth. That's the interior of the offensive line, wide receiver, and at some point, are they going to take a quarterback? Okay, so did you just ruin the Saints' day because they said, wow, too good to pass up? A lot of people think they may take Jordan Love here as the heir apparent to Breeze. To me, they're still pushing the chips.
I'm with you.
They have no second-round pick, only 5 picks in this draft, but their 2 glaring needs are at linebacker and corner. And Kenneth Murray is still on the board at 24 in our mock draft. And I don't think that Loomis, the GM, could get this virtual pick in soon enough. I'm going Kenneth Murray, linebacker, Oklahoma at 24 for the Saints.
What's up?
Kenneth Murray, inside linebacker, Oklahoma, 6'2", 241 pounds.
Shaping up pretty good. Brewer here, out of the shotgun. Sacked back to the 27 by Kenneth Murray. Murray was the first one there.
While Oklahoma is best known for its dazzling speed on offense, Kenneth Murray has used speed on defense to make a name for himself, averaging over 8 tackles a game during his Sooner career, including leading the Big 12 and finishing second in the nation in tackles as a sophomore. The highlight of that season was an amazing 28-tackle game against Army, the most tackles by a player in a college football game in 18 years. His tackling prowess is also a byproduct of his range and versatility.
Puts Minnesota back on the clock, and David, with you having Minnesota last time, taking Chason, the edge rusher, at 22 because you felt he was better than the corners that are there, I think you were right, but that still leaves me with Trayvon Diggs, the corner from Alabama, here at 25, filling another need for the Vikings, and I think getting pretty good value for him at that point. I think they would be happy with being able to get Diggs there.
Yes, and Mike Zimmer loves his DBs. I think he'd be thrilled. I think they'd be thrilled with this first round of the draft, Chason and Diggs.
I do too. Defense was getting a little long in the tooth. They lost a couple guys, and they're replacing them. This would be, if Minnesota doesn't move, which I think you and I expect, this would be, if it fell into them this way, would work out pretty well.
Vikings with 12 picks, folks. 2 in the first, 1 in the second, 2 in the third. So just throwing that out there. All right. Guess who's back on the clock? My Miami Dolphins. And Mark, I mean, this is just so many riches. First off, if the Dolphins doubled up at the tackle position at 18 and 26, how much grief would Dolph fans give them? I mean, they have.
I hope none. I hope none
in the league.
I would. You know me, David. If they got 2 and 2 tackles, I'd jump up and down for them.
And they could here. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, Isaiah Wilson's still available from
Georgia.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, they need every position on the offensive line filled. The best interior offensive lineman is still available. Cesar Ruiz, the center from Michigan, who most people feel could also play guard. Mark, we haven't gotten to the second tier of pass rushers really yet. Epinesa is available. The defensive lineman from Penn State is available.
Yes, they are.
And we're at 26. And every single running back is available. Mark, I'm going to shake things up a little bit.
Oh, look at you.
I know this is a little...
Breaking the Chiefs' heart at 32.
This is a little earlier than where most people have him going, but I am going to go running back LSU. My guy.
You are just
Hilaire.
Yeah, you are all over this guy.
Love him. I think he's Alvin Kamara, only shorter. I do. I'm sorry. He fell to the third round. How ridiculous do teams look now? I think this guy is going to be a great NFL player.
And he is, at best, the third-ranked running back in this draft. I'm not saying you're wrong, David. I am just pointing out facts. I am just pointing out facts that right now everybody believes that either Taylor or DeAndre Swift are the two best running backs in this draft. Correct. David, if you've listened to him for a month on Edwards-Helaire, hell, more than a month. It's going back to the football season. He has been into this guy. So it doesn't surprise me that you make this pick. And this, David, is exactly what I love this for a lot of reasons, because this is what happens in a draft. This is what goes on. You're all set for DeAndre Swift to be the first running back, but the Miami Dolphins scout or GM's in love with another guy. This is what happens. And this would be great for where I'm sitting with Seattle, David, because Seattle's needs are on the defensive line. And they don't have Clowney back, so they're going to need a rusher. I think at this point they go with Gross-Matos, the kid from Penn State. He's the best edge rusher left. I know they could go with the Iowa kid here, but I'm going to take the Penn State edge rusher and fill a need for Seattle.
Fair enough. I like it.
What's up?
Yetur Gross-Matos. Edge. Penn State. 6'5", 266 pounds.
The handoff, McFarland dragged down. A tackle for loss, another one by Gross-Matos. He has been the breakout star this year.
While many in the class of 2019 have overcome adversity to become NFL draft prospects, it might be impossible to find one who has overcome more tragedy than Penn State defensive end Gross-Matos. When he was 2 years old, his father died in a boating accident. Then when he was 11, his brother died after being struck by lightning, despite enduring the unimaginable twice during his childhood. Gross-Matos rose to become a two-time All-Big Ten performer. His sacks increased from 1.5 to 8 to 9 during his college career, prompting him to declare for the draft after his junior year.
I like the selection. I still think there's a chance that Clowney ends up back in Seattle, but they need him anyway.
So I've got another edge rusher. Who's that going to bother in that division, having to play the quarterbacks they run into?
Now, Seattle also has glaring needs on the offensive line, so I do think that there'd be a little internal strife here as to which direction they go, with Baltimore paying particular attention because also, Mark, their needs are very similar. They could go pass rusher and Epinesa, or they could just take the best interior offensive lineman available, a plug-and-play guy. Remember, they had their longtime guard retire on them, and their center's getting a little long in the tooth. And because of that, Mark, I think Baltimore is going to just take a plug-and-play guy, not a sexy pick at all. Maybe somebody who'd be available 8, 10, 12 picks down the road, but I don't think Baltimore takes that chance. Ravens have 9 picks in this draft, by the way, 2 in the second round, although they're both late. I think they go Ruiz, the center from Michigan, who can play either center or guard.
Yeah, I think you're on to something there. I think that would be a solid pick for them because you did mention they lost players. That gets us to Tennessee, and we will do that after the break and finish up with the last 4 picks of the draft with Tennessee, Green Bay, San Francisco, and Kansas City. It is the first ever Miller and Moulton mock draft, and we got steaming during that 8 o'clock segment, David. Got through a lot of picks there. We'll finish it up, review the draft, and still have time for the good, the better, and the best. All still ahead. Miller and Moulton, thank you so much for listening, and particularly all those you watching on twitch.tv.
Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, our first ever mock draft in which Miller and Moulton are the ones doing the mock draft. We've had many a mock draft before. Back in the day, even the fans did it. And As far as the two of us, we used to do a beat writers mock draft, but much tougher to get the beat writers to participate between the hours of 7 and 9 a.m. because we started this draft at the top of the 7 o'clock hour. We are 28 picks into the first round, just 4 remaining. And for what it's worth, the tackles went fast and furious in our draft. 4 of them went in the top 10. The run on wide receivers didn't start till 11. Justin Herbert fell all the way to the Patriots at 23. Now remember, Miller and Moulton are not Justin Herbert guys.
And that's the probably biggest problem, because David had the Chargers pick at 6. And logically, if the Chargers like him, they will take him there. David and I don't. We never have. We've never been into Justin Herbert. We've been consistent about this since the fall. So for us not to take him, it's not a huge shocker here.
But I do think it's worth pointing out the third quarterback, if they don't go in the top 6, then you got, would Jacksonville maybe look around, whether it's Tua or Herbert, and go, ooh, didn't think either one would be here at 9. But once you get past there, folks, there's a real chance that the third quarterback could fall. And then, now you get New Orleans or New England or somebody else all of a sudden wanting to trade up. But you could see where if the third quarterback doesn't go at 6, they fall into the teens. That would not be that bat blank crazy is what we were getting at. Now, falling to 23 is probably bat blank crazy. But I think we've all seen the mock drafts here recently in which Tua has even been available at 18. That he's now judged to be the third quarterback by many, and once you get out of the top 6, they just keep falling.
And
so it's kind of the highlights of our mock draft so far.
And you get down at this point in the draft, it's players you aren't maybe as familiar with unless you're following those particular college teams. If you were on Twitch, you watched the Titans front office have an internal argument for about 40 seconds and pick 3 different players.
Yes.
And that Titans front office is made up of me.
Right. And unfortunately, I wrote down all 3 in pen. So now my really nice, pristine sheet is a mess thanks to the Titans front office.
Well, and I wrote mine down in pen as well, David, and I only wrote down 2 names, so I had to cross one out. In the end, I'm going to go to the offensive line. They lost Conklin. They need to replace him if Derrick Henry is going to continue to run the ball. I'm going to take Isaiah Wilson. There are some who think he is a talent that could end up being one of the top 2 or 3 tackles from this draft. He only started 1 year, very athletic. I'm going to take Isaiah Wilson and hope I can put him on the right side for Conklin and keep Derrick Henry going forward.
So that's Tennessee at 29, which puts the Packers on the clock at 30. Green Bay with 10 picks in this draft, but 5 of them come late. 3 in the 6th, 2 in the 7th. You could argue their most glaring need is wide receiver, but also they need to better defend the run. So there's a couple different ways they could go here. Do you think there's a defensive lineman that's worthy of the 30th overall pick? Do you go out of Wisconsin, the linebacker Bond, who most people have rated in the 30 to 36 area? And here's Green Bay on the clock at 30. Mark, I think they need a wide receiver. And the guy that I've seen most associated with Green Bay down this deep in the draft is Brandon, and I may mispronounce his last name, I think it's Ayuk, from Arizona State. And I'm trying to do the quick math on wide receivers. 3, 5. I think this would be our 6th wide receiver in the first round. But I'm going with the wide receiver out of Arizona State for Green Bay at 30. Rodgers needs more weapons.
Okay, so you're taking the kid from Arizona State. T. Higgins still there that could have been taken at that point, just one of the other receivers that's there. And as far as the linebacker, Patrick Queen from LSU, still hanging around. He's rated in the top 25 on most people's overall board, but David goes receiver for Green Bay. Obviously, that makes sense. That puts San Francisco back on the clock. The Niners, with their first pick with 13, I selected C.J. Henderson, the corner. They need defensive back help. They need offensive line help. and they need some linebacker help as well. This is a spot that I could virtually guarantee that the San Francisco 49ers are going to trade out of. Somebody is going to want Love here, and someone can come get Love here. Someone may want Swift here. They can come get Swift here. A reminder that the San Francisco 49ers, after this pick, would not pick again till the 11th pick of the 5th round. They have no seconds. They have no thirds. They have no fourths. They are moving out of this spot. Period. End of sentence. But for sake of argument for this pick, I'm going to go ahead and take Patrick Queen, the linebacker, out of LSU. He's the highest ranked player on my board, and they need linebacker help, so that's where I go.
479-5551 is how you can chime in to our picks here on the Miller and Moulton mock draft via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. 479-5551. Like a text just came in about the wide receiver Mims out of Baylor, and we understand that you may be joining in now and you've missed some, if not most, of our picks. And I believe that Mark ended up selecting Mims for the Eagles.
I did. Pick 21.
And so, those wondering there. All right. You took Patrick Queen for San Francisco at 31, although you say, hey, they would trade this pick, and I completely agree with you, which leaves the Kansas City Chiefs on the clock. And I will say this, Mark, they just threw something in a fit of anger because they only have 5 picks. Now, granted, they have 1 in each of the first 5 rounds and no 6th or 7th rounder. But their needs are more defense than offense. And they could really use a linebacker and or a corner. And so Queen was undoubtedly the highest ranked player on their board. You took Gladney, the corner from TCU, earlier. I know the Chiefs are hoping that possibly he falls to them. They've got a couple of interesting choices here. Epinesa, I believe, is still on the board. Safety, Xavier McKinney is still on the board from Alabama, and the linebacker Bond from Wisconsin is still on the board.
And so's DeAndre Swift.
Oh, boy. And there are, with the thought is that Kansas City might add at running back and wide receiver, thinking of 2021 and beyond in later rounds. But, Mark, this could be too good to pass up.
That's where I am. That's why I had to bring it up, David, because all of your points are valid, but the best running back in most people's eyes is still on the board, and they have a need there. And DeAndre Swift can catch the ball out of the backfield. That's the other thing he's able to do. That's why, to me, with Mahomes in Kansas City, I think he's a hell of a weapon.
Well, Mark, you talked me into it because I was going to go Patrick Queen until you stole him at 31 for the Niners. So now the first running back taken in our mock draft was by me at 26 with Clyde Edwards-Helaire to the Dolphins, because you all by now should know my absolute love affair with him. I mean, it is gone beyond man crush to love affair.
Yeah, I mean Dak Prescott. Right, Dak Prescott right now is going, man, I thought you really liked me, but you don't like me nearly as much as you like him. Not since Fletcher Cox has David liked a guy this much in the draft.
Yes. I mean, Russell Wilson's going, damn, you like me as the second best quarterback in my draft, and I think you like Helaire more. But DeAndre Swift, 32nd to the Kansas City Chiefs.
What's up?
DeAndre Swift, running back. Georgia. 5'8", 212 pounds.
Swift with the ball, swings around, wide right, spins away from a tackler at the 30, still on his feet, 25-20, near sideline, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Finally! DeAndre Swift, 39 yards to the house.
DeAndre Swift is an apt name for a running back prospect. In his freshman year at Georgia in 2017, he was number 3 on the depth chart, behind future NFL starters Sony Michel and Nick Chubb. But he still rushed for over 600 yards. He followed that up with a pair of back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, finding the end zone a total of 21 times during his sophomore and junior campaigns. He was also productive as a receiver. Swift is projected to have a solid career as a versatile every down back who can contribute right away.
Well, there it is. The first ever Miller and Moulton mock draft is in the books.